G'day, my fellow media collectors. I'm Troy, and today we're looking at Shazam is a live-action superhero TV show that was produced by Filmation, DC Comics, and Warner Brothers Television, and it aired on Saturday mornings on the CBS Network from the 7th of September 1974 through to the 16th of October 1976. The show aired for 3 seasons, with Captain Marvel being played by Jackson Bostwick for the first season and then later replaced by John Davey for the second and third seasons. From 1975 through to 1977, it was known as the Shazam ISIS Hour and included the Secrets of ISIS TV show, which was about an ancient Egyptian superheroine resurrected in the body of a school teacher as the second half of the hour. This DVD has all 38 episodes with a runtime of 22 minutes each. It was first released on DVD on the 23rd of October 2012. And it was distributed by Warner Brothers Home Video. The Shazam TV show follows teenager Billy Batson, who is granted the power to transform into the superhero known as Captain Marvel by saying the magic words Shazam. Helped by his guardian, mentor, Billy travels across the country in an RV, helping young people in need and learning life lessons along the way. With Billy receiving wisdom from the elders before using his powers, he helps young people with their problems through wisdom and reinforcing positive values. So look, the scripts for this TV show were very simple at best. They were all moral driven and tailored to a very young audience of the 70s. Unlike the comic book source material, the show really focused less on action and superhero battles and more on real life lessons and problem solving for young kids. With all of the episodes following, let's just say, the same formula over and over again. With Billy and Mentor, they arrive in a new town. The elders contact Billy with some advice. Billy encounters a troubled person that, funnily enough, needs help. Hang on a minute, Captain Marvel appears briefly just to solve the problem, and a moral lesson is delivered. Sure, the format serves its purpose, delivering, how can I put it, a well-intentioned and effective stories that they were targeting their young audience with, but at the end they just lack depth and any real excitement of, say, a traditional superhero story, with the conflicts a lot of the time being resolved just a little too quickly and neatly, making them feel just overly simplistic, hell, even for 1970s TV standards. And due to the moral driven episodic nature, character depth was often sacrificed in favour of lesson-focused storytelling. Overall, while they did succeed in delivering a positive message as a children's educational show and achieving their goal of entertaining while they were teaching valuable lessons, I don't think they had the comic book fans in mind, because I think they would have been disappointed by, let's just say, some of the repetitive story arcs in this and the lack of dramatic superhero stakes and action you would expect from the comic books. And look, sure, they did what they set out to do by being educational, but for anyone other than kids, this probably wouldn't be for them. So look, for that, I'm probably going to give this a 12 out of 30. The Shazam TV show was adapted from the Captain Marvel comic book character from DC Comics at the time, but as they do, The show took some significant creative liberties, simplifying the superhero elements and shifting the focus, as I've said before, to the educational storytelling. For instance, we get no supervillains. No, not one. None like his iconic enemies such as Dr. Savannah and Black Adam. And Mentor, he replaced other supporting characters like Uncle Dudley and Talkie Tawny, the talking tiger if I remember rightly, that were in the comics. Also, his powers were, how can I put it, very toned down for the show, with Billy being able to transform freely in the comics, but in this show, he often had to consult the elders before using his powers. And unlike the comics where Captain Marvel was the main focus of the comic book, this TV show kind of kept his appearances really brief, with Billy Batson solving a lot of the problems through wisdom rather than being that strong action hero and saving the day. But they did stay true to Captain Marvel's costume, which was a good thing, with the iconic red and gold costume remaining mostly faithful to the comics version, which was really good to see on screen.
He looks good. Really good.
Now the cast, I'll just grab them from here. Now, because of this format, it was an episodic TV show. So as you can imagine, there's only a few core characters. So we really only got 4 people to look at here in the cast, which I've got up here, because every episode had a lot of guest actors in them. So look, I'm not going to put up a list of all of them because it'll just, the list will just go forever. So look, I'm just going to focus on obviously our 4 main actors. And first off, we'll start with Michael Gray as Billy Batson. I think he was a good fit for Billy Batson, bringing a likable and earnest quality to the role. His portrayal of Billy as a thoughtful and kind-hearted teen, it really fit the show's moral themes and style that they were going for. But unfortunately, the scripts often gave him little room for character growth or complexity in his role at all. We also have Les Tremayne as Mentor. Now, the veteran character actor Tremayne, he was kind of the heart of the show, providing guidance to Billy and reinforcing the show's moral lessons along the way. He played Mentor with a warmth and wisdom and a sense of authority that added a real credibility to the show. Now we have our first Captain Marvel, Jackson Bostwick, who was Captain Marvel in season 1. Now Bostwick played Captain Marvel with how can I put it, a confidence and an authoritativeness, and he also had just that little bit of warmth in the background to this role that made him very likable as our main hero. And let's face it, it also helped that he kind of looked the part and carried himself like a true hero, making him a strong presence on screen, despite, well, his limited screen time. Okay, last but not least is our second Captain Marvel, John Davey, who was Captain Marvel in seasons 2 and 3. And yes, Davey, shall we say, lacked the same athletic build and heroic presence as Bostwick. He played the role earnestly and was a serviceable replacement, that is for sure. But how can I put it? He was slightly more down to earth and fatherly. That was kind of his approach to the character. But he didn't really have the same commanding presence as Bostwick. Now look, overall the cast was solid for a Saturday morning kids show, but let's face it, the show didn't demand really any sort of complex performances, shall we say, but the actors successfully made this show a very nostalgic favourite for fans of 1970s television. And for that, you know what, I'm going to give this a 16 out of 20. Okay, let's look at the case. I really like this one. It looks really good and it really captures what the show is about. So there's the front, there's the side, look at that looks good. The back, not bad at all. Overall, they're doing a good job. So let's have a look at the discs. And yes, look at that. Color discs, I had to check again. Blue, red and yellow. How awesome is that? I love it when they put a bit of effort into these things. Honestly, this is, whoop, doesn't want to shut. I like this one. I've seen the Blu-ray version and it's got like a painted cover. It's okay. I actually prefer the DVD cover. I prefer the actual shot of the guys. Just brings back a lot of memories. So for that, I'm definitely going to give this a 7 out of 10. Okay, I don't know if you can see the back there, but there are no special features on this DVD. It is just the episodes, that is it. But there is something that's kind of like a special feature, but not, and it's an option where you can actually play the moral of the story at the end of the episode. Or not if you don't want to, which I think is kind of cool. Now look, just as a little thing for anyone that's never really watched a Filmation TV show or cartoon, a lot of them had a moral to the story, obviously. And the character from the show, one or two of them, would walk out at the end of the show and just for about I'd say about 30 seconds, 40 seconds, would explain the moral of the story and tell you what happened, and to try and teach kids and reinforce right at the end what was right and what was wrong. But look, like I said, it's not really a special feature, so I'm afraid because there's nothing else, I'm gonna have to give it, yeah, you guessed it, 0 out of 10. Okay, as I bring up the Rotten Tomatoes scorecard, as you can see, the critics came in at 40%. Yeah, while the audience, on the other hand, was a little more forgiving with, oh, that's better, 50%. Now, yes, that's pretty middle of the range. An average score there, which is fine, but let's try and put this into perspective too. So you have 5 critics and 1 audience reviewer. That is it. Not a wide spectrum of people there. And the critics were, even though there's 5, they were actually kind of split up the middle. You have kind of these younger people bagging the shit out of it, and you got a couple of Gen Xers like myself getting all nostalgic about it. And that's kind of exactly what I expected, to see people who grew up on it getting excited about it, and people who didn't, not so much. Anyway, look, if we round it out, we're going to get a score, yep, straight up the guts, 5 out of 10. Okay, look, for me, I actually remember watching this as a kid. Now, to clarify, not when it aired in the 70s, because I was born around the time this showed, but when it was in reruns back in the early 80s. They used to put it on early Saturday morning TV before the new shows like He-Man, Transformers and Thundercats came on. So you got to see a lot of these older shows before them. And as a kid of that age, of about between the 7 and 9 mark, I was really taken in by it, and I really did enjoy it as a kid. But watching it as an adult, it's actually probably the first time I've seen it again since I was a kid. And I have to admit, I was awash with nostalgia watching this, as there are so many Filmation elements to this show that felt just so familiar, because like I'm a big He-Man fan, so obviously, you know, the voice of Lou Scheimer in there, and the format of the stories with the morals, everything I remember about those Filmation shows, like I said, He-Man and that I grew up on. Sure, these stories were very simple, repetitive, but you kind of forget that after a while, as the show just serves up that nostalgic charm, well-intentioned, wholesome, light-hearted, family-friendly superhero stories that just remind you of a different time in television that, you know, you just don't see anymore. Now, while it lacks the action and depth of modern superhero adaptations nowadays, it remains a real charming piece of 1970s television history that I'm glad to say that I actually have in my collection. And with that, you probably guess where I'm going with this. I'm going to give it a 19 out of 20. Now, for availability, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5, as it's not like super common to get a hold of. You do have to search for it a bit, and for all my Aussie viewers, there's only versions from the States, so that's what makes it a little harder. As far as collectability goes, I'm going to put this on a 3 out of 5, middle of the range. I mean, if you're a serious collector, by all means. But if you're not so serious and you weren't sort of around at that time and have that nostalgia for it, you probably don't want a copy. For the average price, you are looking at somewhere between the $50 to $95 mark for DVD. So as I always say, it really pays to shop around to get a copy. Let's go to the scorecard and see how this one shapes up. Now for the final score, we get a grand total of 59 out of 100. Hey, that's not a bad score for a Gen Xer nostalgic classic. I know a lot of my younger viewers out there may not really get this show, and look, that's okay. But for us Gen Xers, and I know there are a lot of you out there who watch this show, I've seen the stats, I know that you know what I'm talking about here, and the great stuff that we got to watch as kids in the late 70s and early 80s.
It's one of those campy 70s throwbacks that appeals to Generation Xers.
Next week on the show, we are looking at the film Shazam! Fury of the Gods from 2023 on Blu-ray, so make sure you tune in for that one. Thanks for watching.